It's about time. It's about time.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. We thank you guys for joining us. Another week of the Weekly Jargon. And we're here jargoning about. We did skip a week thanks to our co-star here, Jose. We're going to put him on the spot here. Jose, where were you at?
Well, unfortunately, I caught COVID. So, as much as I want to say that I tested for COVID at least 10, 15 times in the last 2-3 years. And for some reason, I just couldn't get that second bar. And I was like, okay, maybe I have something that is against the COVID, right? Maybe I got some super immunity, right? I would see my kids, other people that I was in contact with. And as I test myself, I just noticed that I wouldn't test positive.
Yeah.
Well, this time around, I go and see my doctor because I feel I have just their standard cold or flu that comes around in November. And she asked me the question, did you test for COVID? And I go, no. And it kind of surprised me that she asked me, but at the same time, why wouldn't I? Right? So she prescribed me some medication. Obviously, that medication is for bacterial infections, right? I was thinking that maybe I have your common cold and maybe some antibiotics will help. So I go home and I test, and sure enough, that second bar is there. And to my surprise, I go, damn, I got COVID. And just had to take the precautionary measures, I think, for you guys. And the rest of the people out there that I quarantined myself.
Well, Jose, I've always known you to be a go-getter and somebody who, if you set a goal, you'll accomplish it. And it sounds like COVID was kind of your goal. You tested 15 times. You're like, I'm determined to get this thing. And here you are, right?
At some point or another, I was determined and I got it.
All right. Anyway, well, welcome back. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And glad that it didn't wipe you out, because then we'd have to go through an interview process of a new co-host, right? So anyway, what are we talking about today, Rohi?
Is Christmas too commercialized? So I think it's a good topic.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Especially right now. I mean, we're approaching Black Friday this weekend, which is the commercialized version of get out and spend money.
That's right.
Yeah, So anyway, we got some jarfuls of questions there that are going to help us stay on topic and get to the meat and potatoes of commercialized Christmas.
I like that, Abel.
All right, Jose. Well, I'm going to go ahead and since you like it so much, I'm going to go ahead and let you start off here.
Yeah, let's. All right. Let's see what we got. Well, see, that one there got stuck, so let's go ahead and read that one there. All right. First question is, do you celebrate the concept of Santa, elves, and reindeers with your kids? I mean, this is a great question. And I know that we all have kids, right? Mm-hmm. My kids are now 15 and 12. And I'll tell you that prior to my kids, I was having a hard time just celebrating Christmas in general with my wife and some of the family, my immediate family. And again, to that point, because I thought Christmas was very commercialized. For a moment there, I became the Grinch, right? I became the Grinch because I didn't really believe that this was true in that the spirit was really out there for kids, but rather it's how much you spend to try to put a smile, or you're trying to put a smile in somebody's face. So when I had my kids, I couldn't rob that from them. You know, as much as I wanted to, I couldn't rob that from them because that was taught on to me early on in my young age, right? Through school, my parents, and taking that from them was just, I didn't think that was right. So I celebrated that. Believe it or not, I ended up buying a Santa suit. Here's someone that went from being a Grinch to buying the outfit. And
well, hey, we've all seen the Grinch, right? And that's typically what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You fall in love with it.
So then, to answer the question, I enjoyed watching movies that brought smiles in their face. Little did I know, though, that I was kind of preparing them for a very commercialized holiday.
Right.
Because that emotion that we trigger for them is an emotion of compulsive behavior when it comes to just consuming, right? We associate happiness with buying stuff. And that's kind of what I wanted to get that away. So slowly I integrated some of my own personal feeling of Christmas, but without really taking away. Because I remember my wife looking at me and say, "They're only kids." That's
Yeah.
right, and that's how I look at it. So now that they're older, I think they kind of see a bit of what I was talking about, but without really taking away that nostalgic feeling of, hey, it's Christmas. It feels good. Something feels good, because to them it's being around family as well.
Right.
So that's how I can answer that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think retail therapy is a true thing, right? and sometimes we over-exercise that therapy during times like this. So Rohi, what's your take on that?
So, for me, is as long as I can remember as a kid, Christmas was always about coming together with our extended family and cousins and stuff. So my cousin started a tradition of having Santa show up on Christmas Eve at this dinner that we had together. And in the beginning, I remember when I was younger, it was we they hired obviously a Santa. None of my uncles or anybody wanted to be Santa, but probably about 10 years ago, he did he bought a Santa suit, and us cousins all took turns being Santa. So every year it would always be, all right, which one of you guys is going to be Santa this time? And to us as adults, we always, the adults loved it more than the kids did, because they thought it was hilarious of somebody dressing up and coming in as Santa Claus. They're always trying to poke at you and trying to test you to mess up. But, the kids loved it. The kids believed it was Santa, even though every year he looks different. He's bigger and smaller, and, they didn't care. It's Santa. And even as the older ones got to the point of obviously knowing, about that it was one of the cousins, they would recognize him, obviously, that they would still hold it back because they knew the kids still enjoyed it, And to me, that was Christmas, And the other thing is that when you talk about Santa or elves and stuff, I think what I don't like is how people say, well, how are you going to lie to your kids about Santa? Well, there was a Santa. He was a real person. It was a St. Nicholas, So we're not really lying to him. We're actually keeping the history and tradition alive of that person. We're just lying a little bit about some of the nostalgia of he's up making all these toys, even though, your favorite gaming station wasn't made by him. It was made by a corporation overseas, So that's where, for me, I think, you got to keep the Santa thing. Don't pawn it off at, well, Santa's not real. He was real. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have a quick little story about my perspective of Santa. I do agree with both of you guys. I definitely wanted to bring that holiday magic to my children, right? And it is great to see their eyes glow when they see Christmas lights and they see Santa Claus and they see all the things. And so we do enjoy all those things. But for me, Christmas, very difficult to, to whip out some extra cash and be able to afford all the things that Christmas brings, right? And so probably about a few years back, I had this resentment towards putting from Santa on presents, right? And it's like, Santa didn't buy you that. I bought you that, But I had to, obviously my wife kind of straightened me out a little bit, like, they'll know when they're older, obviously. And so I kind of went through that where it's like, man, you work super hard. And I think one of my kids asked me, like, Dad, you didn't get me nothing? And they had all these Christmas presents from St. Nicholas, right? Like, who's St. Nicholas? And, was he putting in all those hours at work, right? No, but we definitely follow the traditional or commercialized Santa, reindeers and elves. And, last night we actually had the opportunity to decorate, put up our stuff, because we're going to be pretty busy at the end of the week. And traditionally we do that the weekend after Thanksgiving. So it's always nice. But again, between the holiday cheer, the holiday music, the lights, the vibe in the house was something pretty beautiful. So cool. Well, Jose, thank you for choosing out of the bucket there. Rohi, how about you? You got any? You want to try out a question?
Should we stop making Christmas a national holiday? So I think I've heard this, more and more where. Because Christmas is obviously traditionally, it's a Christian holiday, that you will get a lot of people who will say, well, I'm not Christian, why should we make such a big hoopla about it, And to some degree, I would kind of agree. When we have other religions' holidays, it's not. I don't get the day off. You don't. It's just kind of whatever. So I don't know that it would be possible to make it not a national holiday anymore. But to some degree, I think we're unfortunately moving into that direction to where either every holiday is a national holiday or none of them should be. Because we are kind of giving some favoritism to Christmas. So I don't know.
That's a pretty good question there. I'd have to say, if we go back into the history, where did Christmas really start generating this commercialized? Where did it become this commercialized holiday, right? And I go back and I say, well, during the Depression, I wonder if at that time, I mean, obviously that couldn't really happen because folks didn't really have a lot of money. I'm sure they spent Christmas more as a family, just being together. But I want to say that after World War II, Christmas really got very commercialized because now you have this birth rate of the baby boomers that come on play, right? And this is your biggest generation that in our history that we've seen as far as birth rate goes. And what follows that? Obviously, everything that you can commercialize, right? From baby food to Christmas to everything, McDonald's, you owe the Corvettes, all these manufacturers that are catering to this particular birth rate. So Christmas becomes a thing of like, hey, there's money to be made. Mm-hmm. And here's this age group that can certainly bring us out of this depression, so to speak, and bring us into a very economic boom, right? And any holiday, I think, can certainly generate a certain economic growth, but nothing like the holidays and Christmas, right? Because during this time, this is where we've made it our national holiday. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for us to remove that from folks because some folks, this is what they look forward to. Mm-hmm. Even though they don't have, and in many cases, they might not have the monetary way of getting into Christmas, mm-hmm. but they look forward to this. One, kids are out of school. For some, it might be a financial hardship because how are we feeding these kids now? How am I feeding these kids when they're out of school for the next 2 weeks? Typically, they depend on the school system to feed them, right? So I think removing the national holiday would create more of an economic impact in our. I mean, it affects everyone. I think even worldwide because there's so much consumption, and we depend a lot of those imported goods.
So let me ask you this, Jose, since you kind of say it that way. So then why are, like you said, the schools? But why is it now just? It's not even Christmas anymore. It's a holiday.
Yeah.
You guys are off for a holiday break.
Correct. Correct.
Why can't we own up to it's Christmas?
Yeah. Oh, no, and I get that. I mean, Christmas in itself, obviously the name itself, Christmas, right? It's Christ, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you follow Christmas back to its origin, and this is going back to even before the Romans, this was a pagan holiday that they celebrated. And it wasn't just one day. These were several days of harvesting that was coming because they knew that after the longer days were ahead, right? And as soon as Christmas was come, it was a celebration for them because longer days meant, hey, we can look forward to the new harvest season, to spring. Right. And that's kind of if you go way back there in the origin of it, and I'm not here to give you a history of it, but it's survived for thousands and thousands of years, and we're still here. It's just how we commercialized it to a point where, like you said, Rohi, do we recognize that it's Christmas, or do we recognize it's just another holiday?
Right. Well, I'll play devil's advocate here. Initially my thought was commercialized is bad, right? So we're making it all about money, and we're putting all these literally bells and whistles on everything. From your sweater to your car, right? We're decorating and we're trying to all get into this this holiday jolly spirit. But when we talk about should it be a national holiday, are we actually celebrating Christmas, or is that just kind of the foundation in which the holidays comes from, right? And is that a bad thing? Because now we have food banks who are going out of their way to push out food and help individuals, right? It's a season of giving. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing, fundraising at an all-time high during these times. And so whether you're Christian or not, you believe that, this is the time of giving. If you're Christian, you believe, well, God gave us his son, and in order for, salvation to be saved, all these things, right? It comes from that premise, but that foundation is still there where we adopt that idea of giving, right? And loving and being, a little bit more, a little bit better than we are throughout the rest of the year, right? And so for that reason, because I think Christmas has done that towards this, we'll call it the fourth quarter, right? Where it's really the anchor of the holiday season. I think it actually works out pretty good, and for that reason, I don't think you would see it be removed from as a national holiday because it's such an anchor to this time of year. So.
I totally agree. I think our economists look forward to the fourth quarter to see what kind of spending, right? Because that kind of gives a pretty good forecast of how 2023 may be, right? Based on, do folks have money? Are they spending?
Right.
And that kind of gives an indicator of where we're heading to in the following year. So
sounds good. Well, let's get to the next question here. I'm going to go ahead and dip into the jar. It says, is there enough talk in schools about Christmas? Wow. So this is so this is actually oh, was that a sign to not talk? Well, this is kind of right in line with what we were just talking about, right? Should it be a national holiday? What are we actually celebrating, during these holiday times? There's a lot of controversial topics about our education system and what should be taught to my kid and what shouldn't. And if we're going to be fair, I would not appreciate if, other religions were being imposed on my child while they're at school getting an education. Mm-hmm. It's not a private school. It's a public school. And therefore, I could respect another individual having that same opinion towards Christianity, right? Now, I do think that there are a lot of stories that come that are Christmas-based that talk about values, moral values, giving, loving, all of those things that are just good for mankind, right? But they are Christmas-based, right? That whole, like kind of like your Hallmark movies type, right? They're going to make you feel good. They're going to make you want to go out there and do good and support other individuals. And I do think there are stories that can be shared in schools, but I don't necessarily want to call those Christmas or Christian based stories where we're saying this is what Christmas is all about, right? And that's me just trying to be fair and considerate and saying, okay, well, I wouldn't want us spending too much time on a religious topic of any sort, even if it's one that I believe in. So what do you guys think?
Well, since I can remember, I think during school, I don't recall school really pushing a lot on the Christian faith, but rather, on characters. Mm-hmm. When the holidays came around, right? You got this character, Frosty the Snowman, that kind of evolved on its own, right? And now it's part of Christmas, right? You have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you have the Grinch, you have Santa Claus. So all these characters come into play during this time. And very few talk about, well, what is Christmas, right? It's rather, this is a jolly time, and these are the characters that are part of this event or these holidays. And you did have the nativity scene. You would have the birth of Jesus and a lot of these plays that we would do for Christmas during school. But I don't recall it being very forced upon you, mm-hmm. and you have to partake in this here. They were just doing a traditional play of what the nativity scene was, right? This is during its time. I know the Catholic Church at the time, I was born Catholic, and they had their rituals and their traditions that they did throughout these days leading up to Christmas. And, but I don't remember that the school was very, maybe not so much in school, but even in our society, I don't remember them pushing out a lot of Christian base.
Right.
Well,
doing the play of Jesus, right?
Correct. I mean,
reenacting the birth of Jesus, the nativity scene. I mean, sometimes I think we tolerate that because it's in line with what we believe in. Oh, that's beautiful. That's what this holiday is about, right? But if that's not what you believe,
here's the other.
Is that
you would overshadow by the other characters that were part of that, right? I mean, and you didn't have to stick to the nativity scene. Yeah, that was there, but you also had all these other scenes at the same time. And like I said, you had all these other characters part of the jolly season, and that's kind of what I remember. And if you ask any kid today, hey, what do you remember about Christmas? I think the first thing that they condition kids to really think about is Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Santa Claus by far outbeats, I think, in our school especially, or at least in our society, outperforms Jesus. Mm-hmm. And that's because how they've conditioned us to think that this is all about gifts, gifts, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I certainly see. So
sure. How about you, Ryan?
I mean, I think when I look at it, like in the school settings, I remember as a kid having like the Christmas like performances we'd have to do, where it was. They would. I mean, I can't remember at this point. I was pretty sure they call it the Christmas performances, where we'd sing Jingle Bells and whatever for your class. And I think that's where I guess I get a little upset with it. It's because if we were talking about some other holiday, we wouldn't frost over it with something else. We recognize it's for Christmas. We just can't say it because it's like a bad word to say Christmas in the school. And that's where I think I guess I have that problem with that is, as far as are we commercializing it? Yeah, we're telling everybody about this holiday, but we all know what it is. It's like a secret. We can't say that word.
Yeah.
And that's where I think in the school aspect, it's like either completely remove it. There's no holiday, gathering. There's no holiday performance. Or call it's a Christmas performance and have it focus on Christmas. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't put the Santa Claus. And I'm not saying like, okay, if there's another holiday that we want to, if we want to recognize other holidays, great. But we wouldn't say, okay, it's Ramadan and now come up with some crazy character to recognize it, but not actually use the word Ramadan and not actually talk about it. That's where I guess I have that issue.
Well, even Starbucks, they removed Merry Christmas from their cups and they went to Happy Holidays.
Correct.
Right, yeah. And that's right in line with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, Jose, let's get another round in here. This is it's heating up here.
All right, let's see what we got here. Seems like there's two here. Let me go ahead and pull one up here. Okay. What are the emotions triggered when Christmas comes around? Are they commercialized? So, I mean,
I would say commercial and commercialized and inflicted, right? Like society inflicted of those emotions.
So I think that about this time around, we're getting close to Black Friday. I can already tell you that when I listen to the radio, the holiday, as soon as Halloween's over, for some reason, traditional Christmas songs are up, right? And they want to get us used to that. So they're triggering emotions of like this nostalgic or this Christmas spirit, right? They call it the Christmas spirit. So something somewhere deep rooted inside of you, I mean, it's there. It's just hibernating throughout the year because after Christmas, really, it's just spring and summer. It's hot, especially around here. But for some reason, after Halloween, you start going to this emotional state of, okay, man, maybe it's time I settle down a little bit, get ready for the holidays. We're going to have turkey. We're going to have a get-together. We're going to eat a lot. Black Friday's around the corner. Then I got to buy all this stuff. So I think, your emotions are triggered, and these are your emotions of like having to feel like, you got to do something. And it's towards the end of the year where you have to feel like you got to give, right? And I don't know what specific emotions are being triggered, but I know that your emotions are being triggered by all the surrounding music, you start seeing a display of Christmas trees, lights. So it does something to us, right? It does something to us to put us in a mood of wanting to get to that Christmas cheer, Christmas spirit. And is it commercialized? Of course it is. Because, I mean, you see it if you're out there. Shoot, it makes you feel bad that these characters are buying these Mercedes or Lexuses with the bow wrapped
With a
around.
big
for them.
bow on it for the
And I
race.
go, well, wait a minute, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I can do something else, you know. But it gets you thinking already, what have you done for your wife lately, right? And if you haven't, then it puts you in the naughty list, right? So I don't want to be in the naughty list, right? So you start thinking, and that's where your emotions start wanting to generate. I got to get something. I got to get something. And on the recipient's end, you know, are they happy? I mean, for the most part, who isn't happy? Anybody that receives a gift or some kindness or something, it's going to trigger another emotion, right?
Yeah.
And then that is reciprocal, right? So then they have to feel like they have to do the same. So I think it's a cycle. And yeah, obviously it is commercialized. So not sure what your thoughts are there, Abel.
Yeah, what's the question again? I just want to make sure I'm on the
On topic, right?
here.
Yeah. The question is, what are the emotions triggered when Christmas comes around, and are they commercialized?
There's tons of emotion, right? And I always think about like, social media, right? And we like to use that word, social media, but social media, I mean, that it's essentially been around since the start of the television, right? Back in, I don't know, what year is that, Ro? You're the tech guy. Like maybe like the 50s, right? Where people started getting televisions in their house. And that's where marketing really started kicking off, right? Because now you can touch people in their living rooms, and you can show the toys, you can show the car, the Mercedes with the bow on it, right? And it has gradually or progressively increased throughout the years to where it's at now, where literally you can look at your phone and feel bad about something, right? Feel bad about yourself, essentially. When I was a kid, there was no social media, no Facebook, nothing like that. And I know it's the same for you guys because you guys are much older than me. I'm just kidding. But
Yeah, where's that button?
but it's like, if you were to stay in your own home, right? Celebrate Christmas, stay in your own home. I think Christmas would be a really great experience for most people, right? It's not until you start comparing your Christmas with other people's Christmas where you really start feeling like crap. Where you're like, wow, that guy got his wife a Mercedes, right? That guy got his kids the newest, latest, and greatest. And as a kid, it wasn't until you either went to go visit a family member and then you discovered what your cousins got, right? Or got back to school and then everybody's sharing what they got. And by then you could kind of, lie a little bit and say, oh yeah, I got this and that. Nobody would really know. Today, it's instant, right? As soon as you get something, I mean, you're opening your present with your selfie camera up and you're, look at what I'm getting, And so you have this, I think you have this more instant, social media has given us more instant, like either gratification or emotion that is more negative, right? Because we're able to compare ourselves instantly. Like your wife's sitting there looking at her Facebook and, her friend's getting, the latest and greatest, and maybe you only were able to get her something not so great, right? Now you remove all those barriers to the exterior, and she's probably actually very thankful for that, right? Or you might be actually very thankful for the gift that you got. So I think when we're talking about emotions during Christmas, it's like important not to compare ourselves to other people, right? That might be the greatest year they've ever had financially, and so they're doing it, right? Next year they might have the worst year ever, right? It doesn't mean that you go and try to stomp on them. Oh, well, you had a great Christmas last year, so I'm gonna come and beat you out. Everybody's racing their own race. Everybody has to stay in their own lane. And don't compare yourselves to other because you're never going to win. And it's kind of like, it depends on who you hang out with after Christmas. That's going to make you feel that way. If you go hang out with some rich people, you're going to feel like crap. You're going to feel like a poor guy, right? You go hang out with some religious people, you're going to feel like crap. You're going to feel like the Grinch. You're going to feel like you aren't, focusing enough on, your religion. You're not focusing enough on, those things. And you're going to feel like you're deficient in that category, right? So don't compare yourself, race your own race, and that'll handle the emotions. That's what I think.
I think like when you say what are the emotions of Christmas, I think when you talk about the kids, I know all year round kids want toys. that doesn't stop. You watch any of their TV shows, every commercial's a toy. It's a new toy. Here's the new toy. So, I mean, they're always asking for that stuff. I think the difference is we always tell them, well, you know, when's your birthday? When's Christmas? That's because, you know, to kind of get them understand that we don't just buy things just to buy things, you know. So I think when Christmas comes around, that's where things shift gears in the commercial land, because it's like, well, Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
And they kind of give you that that little reminder to say like, hey, remember all these toys we've been asking for? Well, you know, it's coming around, you know. Now, we've always done something where they write letters to Santa, and you know, it's really more or less to kind of help Grandma and Grandpa figure out a wish list of what to get them for Christmas, you know. But getting to the understanding, like, hey, don't ask us. You got to go out. You know, we can easily pawn off on the other guy now. I mean, that's the one benefit of a Santa Claus, is say like, hey, I'm not buying any of these gifts. You got to go make it up to Santa and be good, or else, you know, he doesn't bring it. But I think, like you're saying, as far as like as an adult, you know, everybody hates me for Christmas because I try not to want. What do you want for Christmas? I don't want. I don't like that feeling of saying like, I gotta have this so bad that you're gonna buy it for me. Right. I've always had an issue with that. So at the end of the day, it'd be like, well, I don't know, give me some socks, or give me, you know, something that's just, if you want to get me something, you know.
Sure.
But again, I think it's more for the kids, and that's where we try to focus. It's just make it about the kids, let the kids be happy. So
You're not to try to stomp on this too much, but you know, you're bringing up a good point, because in I recall during Christmas, you know, we grew up around our family, and the financial status of each family there wasn't really that much greater than any one of ours, right? So we pretty much all had the similar financials or financial upbringing with our parents. They can only afford so much, but there was those moments that I saw that maybe some of my cousins did get a bit more, and it triggered an emotion, you know, like, damn, why can't I have that, man? Shit.
Right.
You know, instead I'm getting socks and stuff, you know, or something different, right? And they're getting bikes or something. So it kind of puts, you know, this, I don't know if it's artificial emotion, like to start thinking, you know, already, well, why isn't that my parents? Why can't they come up with the difference? Why can't they do that for me? I mean, and it starts already there, conditioning you to want to have more and more. Christmas, and again, I bring this back, Christmas isn't about, well, I mean, at least in my opinion, it's not about how much I can get my kids, but rather understand that it's a moment in time where we can be together and bond, right? You don't have to have the latest and greatest, but you're going to have your family. Think about that. And for telling that to a young child, I think, after exposing them to all the stuff that's on TV, social media, it's really hard. And I think it takes really good parenting. And I'm not saying that I'm the greatest parent out there, because I fail a lot of those things. But I think we try to at least drive that concept home so that they understand that this isn't what it's all been out to be, right? There's more to that. And you hope that they pick it up at some point. Maybe not now, because they whine, well, why don't you give me this PS5 now, right? That's the latest one. But anyhow, I really like how you touched on that, though, Rohi.
All right.
me?
Rohi, you're up.
This may be the last one, right?
Yeah, we're gonna. All right. Let's see here. Do we get a sense of national pride when we partake in the holiday festivities? That's a tough one. Okay, national pride. I think the thing is to understand, and I kind of find it odd, is that Christmas, or the holiday season that we're approaching, is celebrated everywhere because it's so commercialized. Like people in Japan or China, or it's like they don't care, because again, it's not about Christmas. It's just this national or world holiday in the sense of shopping, that people around the world right now are essentially shopping. So do we take a sense of national pride? I think to some degree, when you say, I mean, obviously the White House puts the giant Christmas tree, or, you know, as a nation, we start preparing and dressing up for the holiday season. And I don't know. I mean, that's a hard one. Do I have a sense of national pride? No. I mean, I know at the end of the day, being religious, that it's not about the nation. It's about me. It's about my religion and what I'm celebrating. So.
Very good. How about you, Jose?
Well, I
Sorry.
No, I mean, I think
Take it that
that's a
direction.
great question, because I do think that, you know, some of us may may think that there's a responsibility in being part of this traditional holiday, right? I mean, we feel like this obligation or this weight on the back of us. Hey, we got to do our part, right? And our part would be to go out there and spend some dollars, whether you're buying the accessories for Christmas, trees, lights, gifts under the tree. You know, like I told you before, prior to my kids, you know, I didn't want to be part of it. You know, for some reason, I really just reluctantly didn't want to be part of this commercialized deal. But I guess I got sucked into it after my kids. You know, I got that spirit coming back. I wanted to see their faces glow. I didn't want to rob them of the same childhood experiences that I had. And I felt like I had an obligation as a parent to help my kids and don't make them feel left out, ostracized from the rest of the world in a way. And I think that was my duty. And that's why I felt like as a parent, I want to be able to provide those same experiences to my kids, you know, but I also want to add my own flavor in it. I wanted to make sure that they understood that it wasn't about the gifts. Mm-hmm. Think about it. And once you explain to them, whether you want to explain to them in a religious sense and you want to really expand on the nativity, the Christ and all that, or if you want to go above that and say, well, this is more a celebration of how these Romans came about, celebrating the winter solstice and why they did what they did. There's a lot of history of it. I can take any avenue, but I think overall, I just didn't want my kid to feel any different, especially in today's society, because it's very easy to do that. And kids nowadays with social media, you brought up a really good point, Abel. They look through social media and that, man, I mean, I don't know if it's artificial or what, but if people are posting stuff of gifts they got from their hubbies, it makes it hard on everybody else. Why do you do that?
It does, yeah.
Because now you put the pressure on me, especially if my wife is looking at it. Well, why isn't my husband like that? Thoughtful, creative, and sensitive like that. And I go, well, shit, I am. I just don't show it, right? So you make it very difficult on me. Don't do that.
Yeah, no, that's...
But I do. I feel that there is, to some degree, I think we do have...
ultimately, do you take pride in being able to provide that traditional
I
Christmas
do because,
food?
I mean, this is the American way, you know, and we are American, you know, and it's celebrated worldwide. It's a global deal. Yeah. But here, especially, I think these days, like I said, it brings that spirit, and I feel like I do partake in it because it makes me feel like I'm doing my part. You know, I'm going to spend this money in a way that hopefully it generates economic growth, not only to my surrounding community, but also to other folks, because, I mean, it's the multiplier effect. So,
yeah.
Well, half cent of that is going to your roads.
Correct.
So
half cent. It still is.
It didn't pass, did it?
It didn't pass, but it's still
another
going.
5 years.
For 2026, it's still going.
Yeah, when I think about national pride, America, right? To me, America represents a very diverse country, right? And I do love learning about other cultures and how they celebrate, especially the foods, right? The foods are a big deal for me. The food and drinks. What are you drinking? What are you eating? And so for me, I do take great pride in Christmas. I do think that it's something that it's more of a culture thing, you know. And I'm proud to be from the Mexican culture side of it, where food is a huge deal. We do posadas at different family members' house leading up, which is a time of prayer, and the prayer is, just a rosary. And if you know about the rosary, it's only 20 minutes, so it's not like an all night thing. But again, we're getting everybody together. We're praying. And usually, the host, has breads and coffees and things like that. And it's just a time to, kind of reflect on what's coming, what we're celebrating, which is Christmas. Very, very beautiful, right? And, I can remember back when my grandpa was alive, he'd always used to tell me, man, I wish I could take you with me to Mexico, when I was a teenager. And I regret not going, because he would tell me about all of the, just the celebrating and fiestas that are going on during that time. And all very, very religious based. Of course they drank and things like that, but it just sounded so beautiful, right? And so now when I go to a friend's house, whether they're Japanese or Irish, whatever the case may be, they each have their own flavor, like Jose, right? They put your own flavor on Christmas, and they each have their own traditions, and to me that's very beautiful. And so when I say it's very American, that's what I'm referring to is the diversity of it, not just a one way version. So yeah.
Well, shoot, I think that in itself is a very good topic. I think we've explored whether or not Christmas is commercialized. I think in our own ways, in our own opinions, I think we've kind of expressed that to some degree Christmas could be commercialized. And
Well, how many holidays are leading up to Christmas? There's Black Friday. There's Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
There's we're writing holidays as we go to have these special days, right?
well, before we sign off, let me ask you this question here,
Yeah.
Rohi. What are your plans for Black Friday? Or Abel?
You know what? I like that you brought that up. Because if you haven't been in the stores, Black Friday actually started 2 days ago.
Oh wow!
Online.
No,
Or at stores?
no,
Wow.
at stores. Because we're in the process of looking for a new little robot vacuum for the house, and the article said, well, Black Friday sale. So I'm thinking, okay, Friday, I'll wait. They already have the sale. It started
Wow.
on the 20th. So
Wow.
it's like, so now we don't even have Black Friday anymore. It's just whenever we want to start taking your money holiday.
Yeah, Black Week or
just
something, right?
Whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
just, so
It's
that's
crazy.
where I think, we are getting over commercialized because, Black Friday, okay, I understood. Hey, you had to find something to do after Thanksgiving and you're, go shopping, great. But now we can't even just have that. We have to keep having more of these special days of sales to get you to spend more. That's where I don't like it.
Right. Well, I'm personally, I don't fight the crowds. I don't want to get murdered out there, or for $5 off
Yeah.
of a particular item. So for the last few years, I've been going golfing with my dad, and then we started inviting some uncles, started inviting their kids started coming along, and so last year I think we had maybe 10 of us that were out there golfing, and it was actually a really good time. So this year we said, well, shoot, man, let's open it up, because some of our friends and stuff would see us out there. Oh, tell us about it, hit me up, and all this stuff. So we started inviting people, and now we probably have about almost 30 people now that are going to do a little 9-hole tournament on Friday. So
Nice.
Jose, I think Rick told you about it, and
Yeah,
if you're going to be out of commission, but
No. I'm like you, Abel. I'm very I don't want to say disappointed, but I just don't like partaking in that activity on Fridays. I don't like being around a very rushed crowd, traffic. So I'd rather find something better use of my time. And there's nothing like being out at the golf course where I don't have to worry about anyone shoving me around or telling me what I need to buy. I'd rather be out hitting a ball and just going crazy. But anyway, I don't look. I think everybody to their own. But hey, great show. Thanks.
yeah. And if you're wondering how we're golfing on after Thanksgiving, it's because we're in California, Central Valley. A luxury here.
It's still cold, but it's
for us at least.
yeah.
The advantage of global warming in Madera.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
All right. Thank you guys for watching.